let's stay with the subject but bring it home. This week in South Africa, a 4-day work week study began. So let's get more details now from Karen Lowe. She's the director of 4-day week SA. Karen, thank you so much for joining us. I think you probably heard what Ollie had to say about the UK study, largely extremely positive. Talk to us about the South African study. Did you find willing participants? Did you focus on just one sector of business? Talk to me about how it's worked out.
Sally, gosh, I think there was no linear line here. It was an experiment from my side to say, well, you know what, we need to start having mature conversations in South Africa around productivity. Well-being is at critical level. We've got talent management issues. We've got a lot of tension in the hybrid remote return to work environment. We've got socioeconomic conditions that are impacting us. And I sort of went, you know what, I think it's time that we joined a research experiment as South Africa and tested for ourselves. And we went out with a message first time in September last year. And to be honest, we've been completely overwhelmed with the response, the interest. And the South African pioneers that have signed up are very similar to the Ireland and America cohorts in the sense that they're more knowledge worker service oriented. And I think, you know, Ollie Barrett is correct in the sense that there are certain industries that might find this more difficult to turn on. And I think the change management sort of concept of how do we switch this on, the real way in which we do this is sort of pivotal to its success. At the heart is experiment. So it's going to attract companies that are agile and flexible and that are already sort of early adopters of new ways of working. But I think it's got scale and certainly since we launched and ended up with 29 pilot participants.
Is that 29 companies? Is that 29 companies?
29 companies.
Right.
Yes,
and in what sector?
And Ireland had 17, to give you a point of comparison. So, you know, we've got a good data set. And I must acknowledge that they're mostly knowledge workers and service-oriented industries. We don't have manufacturers and agriculture and mining yet. And I think that's the most important step to come. You know, we've got to start somewhere and we've got to try somewhere.
Yeah. So 29 companies, knowledge-based service. So give me some of the big names if you're able.
Those that are willing to acknowledge their participation, I think quite a few of them see it as a significant competitive advantage going through this ahead of their sort of industry competitors. But IQ Business, one of our largest management consultants in South Africa, Threeverse, which is a large ad agency in Cape Town. We have the Digital Marketing Collective, possibly one of the sort of leading e-commerce and digital marketing organizations in South Africa. We've got a couple of nonprofits that are working in different environments, youth development, education, etc. We've got some tax, we've got some law. There's quite a profile of communications, law, labor, finance, ITC. Obviously, we've got 4 ITC companies.
I mean, you mentioned that it tends to be the earlier adopters, and it seems to suit. It's more easy with the knowledge-based, service-based companies. But as Ollie was saying, even a supermarket like Sainsbury's is looking at how to do it because the benefits seem to be enormous to the employee who has a better work-life balance, mental health issues, a lot happier, a lot less stressed, but also for the companies, they're retaining people. Sick leave is drastically reduced. And it sounds innovative, but it's also more complicated than the typical old-fashioned clock-watching system. You've got to work X amount of hours a day. That's how I can measure your productivity. Do you think, by and large, South African managers are ready for this kind of innovation, or are we still stuck in the ticking off your hours a day mindset?
Sally, I think we're still obsessed with time, unfortunately, instead of what we're doing with that time. But I think it's changing quite rapidly. And I know that COVID forced us all to pivot. And I think the impact of that is going to be felt for possibly decades to come. But the future of work has changed. And anyone that is still sitting on the fence wondering whether flexibility is indeed an incentive to retain staff, encourage youngsters to enter the workplace, look after the well-being components. There's so many anchors that are being researched as part of this global movement. And I think, just to summarize those, yes, it's a productivity experiment at its heart. We want organizations to be productivity positive, revenue positive. But I think South Africans and South African organizations have reached a critical tipping point where mental health and well-being is concerned. And I think it is a strategic priority, number one, for a lot of HR executives out there. So whether it's talent management or recruitment or, absenteeism, there are many, many reasons to pursue this as an experiment and many, many ways to do it. There is no one size fits all. And I think, the Sainsbury's example, I must just mention, points out something that the trial is actually very much against, and that is increasing the intensity of work during the days that you're at work. That is not the point of the trial. The trial is to get to a reduced work week over a period of 6 months that works for the organization and the staff, not to try and cram in more work in the days that you're at work. And I think that's a very important point. We don't need to increase intensity because we'll increase burnout, we'll increase the prevalence of mental health issues in the workplace. And that's the very last thing that we need to do. This is an experiment, not just in productivity, but in well-being. It's an experiment in sustainability and sustainable human capital management. And I loathe that word, but it is that. We're all human.
Yeah.
We're all humans at the end of the day.
And I think, I think you make such a good point, Karen, that in so many ways, what happened during the pandemic, it made us realize, the technology had been there for a long time. It made us realize, you can work from home and make a contribution. Yes. But equally, sadly, what it took from us with so much loss and grief and so much isolation, the mental health issues have come front and center. And as you say, if this can lead to happier employees who enjoy their lives more, they will automatically be more productive. I really hope that you keep checking in with us. I know that the study started this week in South Africa, 29 companies, you say. Please keep us posted on how it's going. I look forward to the results. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That's the director of 4-Day Week SA, Karen Lowe, their 4-Day Week study that started here in South Africa just a little earlier this week. We've got your business news in just a moment. Also,